Here we go. So yeah, so we are here at the last part of module 1, which is the third order of love. I just want to recap we have 3 orders of love that we are covering in this module. The first day was the first order of love. It's the order of belonging, yeah, the order of inclusion. We were talking about who belongs to family system. We were talking about what is a family system, what the systems in general, how is it possible we can work with them. Very important that we are not trying to work with family members that don't belong to the family system, because that will have no impact in our work or in the healing. That was our first part. And then the second part was the second order of love, the order of precedence. And that was when we now take all the members of the family system. Now we need to know in which order they would appear if there would be no disturbance in the family system, and what kind of disturbance we see when we see them in disorder, right? And that's, of course, the whole course. That we learn how to see what is not in order, right? And then find that what meant that to apply the healing. So that was all about yesterday. And today we are looking at these family members and the relationship of these family members and see what makes them balance if they are not balanced, because this is the greatest obstacle in in the orders of love, that a relationship is not balanced. Yeah. So this is the third order of love, is the balance of giving and receiving. Yeah. Okay. So the order of balance means we are looking at giving and receiving in relationships, different kinds of relationships, and we will find out that in different kinds of relationships, you need to apply different kinds of remedies, if you will, to balance the relationship. So we have the mother-child relationship as the most important relationship in our life. Then we have the father-child relationship. And then we have the child-to-parents relationship, looking from the child towards the parents. It's a different kind of relationship. And then we have the relationship to ancestors, which is slightly different to the parents. And then we have the relationship, we call it in romantic relationships, but it could be any relationship where you are face-to-face with somebody, which is not coming before or after you. So when you think of the stream situation of the water flowing down from the source all the way through the generations down to the ocean, then when you think of these relationships, which we call for now romantic relationships, we are thinking of a lake situation, yeah, where there is no flow up or down. It's a lake, so it's totally even. Yeah. You come back, Kimberly. Okay. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so it looks like her computer is back to life. Back to life. Very good. Okay, so think of this when we talk about these kind of relationships, with not need to be romantic, yeah, that it is a lake situation, yeah. Okay. We have, of course, which I have not mentioned here, the relationship of the siblings towards each other. We have an order there, as we know from yesterday, the order of who comes first, right? So that is another relationship that falls into the relationship that is not a lake situation, that has a slightly fall, if you will. Yeah. But however, within the siblings, let's say you have 5 siblings, the first and the last sibling has a special place in the family, and then the 3 middle siblings, they would be more in this lake situation. Yeah. So it's hard to put them into a scheme. So we will talk about them separately. Okay. So mother relationship. Mother to child, from the perspective of the mother, the love flows towards the children downwards, because it's the next generation. And remember, the second order of love, there is no way back for the water or the love to flow back. Not the same love, right? Of course, there is love from children to parents. That's not what we're talking here. It's about this motherly, nourishing love that, when it is missed out, has traumatic experiences in the family system. Yeah, and this is the love that cannot be returned. Yeah, so just be aware of that. This is always flowing forward. Therefore, in this regard, children are not supposed to give anything back. Anything means this kind of love, right? This is coming from the mother. The river only flows in one direction. Remember, the water doesn't flow back to the spring. There can be a disturbance, and you can easily spot that. And when the mother hasn't grown up, when the mother is still at heart a child, then the mother is in need of this motherly love, and has children on their own, and expect from the children that she receives from the children this love. Yeah, that is a great disturbance in the family system, of course, and that causes multiple traumas in the child and entanglements in the family system. So that is a good example when this love cannot flow back. Yeah? Of course, children love their parents, but not in that way that this nourishing and caring love that comes from the mother, right? So the most common problem here is that the mother hasn't grown up, is still a child in need of this motherly love from her mother, not aware of it, of course, dismisses her mother most of the time, and then tries to get this love from either a partner or their children. Yeah, which is impossible. The children, on the other hand, once they grow up, they are also just a conduit for this love, like the mother and the grandmother is. So they will give this love forward to their children. Now, if they don't have children, then they will have the urge to give it to a good cause, you know, like animal shelter or elderly home, or to care for, or have pets, or to care for others. Yeah, and let this love flow, because this love needs to flow. It cannot be stagnant. Yeah, it just needs to flow, right? So of course, then in this other cause or in the animal also, that is kind of then the end of this lineage, right? If they have no children, that's the end of this lineage so far, obviously, because the family system does not continue beyond that. So it is not like an animal becomes a substitute for a child or something like that. Don't think that, right? So that's the end of the lineage if somebody has no children. And that is also good, because the family system wants to come to an end here often. Yeah. So that is normally, if one has no urge to have children, or despite all attempts to have children, doesn't become pregnant of children, or the children die before they can have their own children, that is, of course, in a way predestined somehow. Yeah. So it won't go against the family system will, because they would make it happen otherwise. It's very strong energy coming from there, very strong dynamics that you cannot really refuse. What do the children give to their mother? That is gratitude and respect, of course, right? And deep felt love and thankfulness for her service. Yeah, that is what the children give, if you want to call it gift. That is what the children should feel towards their mother. And that would make the mother happy. Because a mother that is capable of letting the love flow in that way, in this unconditional way towards their children, doesn't want anything back. I mean, if you are a mother, and you know, Kimberly, you might have experienced that, you are so happy to just let your love flow. You really don't anything back, but you don't want to be, of course, treated badly from your children, but
that's exactly it. You do just want gratitude. You just, and to know that they're solid, that they're good, they're happy.
Exactly. That's totally enough. So you can also feel it in your own experience that this order of love is just following a natural phenomenon, right? And it's not artificially put on like system, kind of put over or cover something that is not there. The children's role is to receive mother's love without judgment. That's the problem. That is the real problem that practically everyone suffers from. Yeah. The judgment comes from expectations towards the mother. And they are not coming out of nowhere. They are normally as a result of a trauma. Because if a child happens to have, like I said, did I say that in your group, the example with the indigenous folks who carry, they give natural birth, they carry their child with them, they give the breast until they are 3 or 4 or whatnot, until they decide they don't want that anymore, and they run around with other children. And so there is absolutely no room for an interrupted movement towards the mother, and these children will have no judgment towards their mother. They just don't. They're happy about their mother, they're happy with their life. There's nothing in between, right? Nothing. But in our modern times where we work, we have this, we have that, we have babysitters, we have, it's just a different environment. It's very unlikely that the child has not at one stage the need towards the mother, which is not fulfilled, and that is causing this trauma. And now with this trauma, and we talk about that in greater detail in module 4, with this trauma, there's this deep wound in the child and distrust, towards the mother, that she might not be there again when the child needs the mother, and there comes the rejection from the love of the mother, that it's not good enough. It doesn't, that's what's going on in the background in this traumatized child, in all of us, right? It could be very subtle, it could be very severe, and it leads to judgment towards the mother, inevitably, right? And thank goodness to the methodology of family constellation, we can deal with it and we can fix it. And I like to quote Sophie Hellinger, Bert Hellinger's wife, with my favorite saying from her is, after a constellation with multiple of these interrupted movements healed, she said, as you can see, it is never too late for a fulfilled childhood. And that's so true. Yeah. So the common problems in an unbalanced mother-child relationship is, as I just explained, the child cannot receive mainly for that reason. The mother cannot give, so cannot open her heart and let this love pour out her. And that has the same reason, because she herself hasn't received it from her mother. She herself, as a child, has traumas, interrupted movements towards her, not received, and you cannot give what you haven't received. Right? So in this case, in a family constellation, we place all mothers in all generations there and see where this has started, this interruption. And then start to heal it from there. Who came first, right, in this order. Another common problem is the child feels superior to the mother. It mainly has the same reason. It just looks like what I say in a family constellation, like the arrogant child. You see this arrogancy in the child. Yeah? And that only means that they cannot receive. In this case, the mother is capable to give, but the child cannot receive because it feels superior to the mother. And there is one very good remedy, and you will see that also when we go through the interrupted movements and the healing of that trauma, is that the child makes itself small. And the representative, of course, of the child, of the adult child. And the other problem in the relationship could be that the mother feels weak towards the child. She doesn't feel powerful. Yeah. So the mother herself has an entanglement, a trauma. Yeah. She's might following an ancestor, something like that. And then we need to work with the mother and her traumatic experience in the family line and where this is coming from, to enable the child to be able to receive the love from the mother. When we look at the father's-child relationship, everything applies in more or less the same way, only that the bond, as you know, between father and child is slightly different to the mother, and also the relationship therefore and the expectations are slightly different. Just barely because the father hasn't carried the child and hasn't had the breast to feed them, obviously, right? That's the only. It's not a racist thing. It's just nature hasn't designed it like this, right? I know that many fathers are envy of the mothers that they have this bond, right, and they can carry the child. And you know how you have this ridiculous attempts to get men pregnant and all of this. This is anyhow. So you know, you can see what kind of envy is pouring out there from the male world. In some cases, I'm not generalizing this. But it is as it is. It is as it is. It is not designed as it. So father's love flows to the children. It is also a deep love that the children is nourished from and needs, but it is not the same. Yeah, and therefore the father-child relationship is often not so deeply interrupted as the mother-child. But it's absolutely possible, and you always look also for father-child relationship traumas, not only mother-child, although you would probably start with the mother and then with the father. So again here, yes,
this
please?
would be for both. This would be for both genders. They would still be more aligned with a mom, son and daughter.
Yeah. They both come from the womb. Now that we are talking about that in greater detail, if we have a surrogate mother, then we also have already a very deep interrupted movement from the get-go, right, of this child, right? I haven't seen actually, that's a theory, I haven't seen actually any case with a surrogate mother yet. I would be really keen to have on the workshop. If you know anybody, please make them come. Like the child, obviously, like the child from a surrogate mother. I would expect that the bond is formed with the surrogate mother somehow, yeah. But since the surrogate mother does not belong to the family system other than through destiny, it could be destiny or action, because it's probably, if it's a big, like if the child wouldn't be without the surrogate mother, if there would be no other way, if that's the way, right? Then I would think she belongs to the family system because she has a severe impact, yeah, on steering the family system through her action of helping to give life to the soul of and make it a family member, because every family member, as you now know, in the family system is very precious. Right? It's very precious and has a function in the family system that cannot be altered, or that cannot be taken away or minimized. It's very precious. So when you think about somebody outside who is, regardless if they get money for it and if they maybe make it as a profession, I don't know, if they donate their body to help the family system, I would say yes, they would probably be a part of the family system through destiny or
I can
action.
imagine too, Maya, like if there was a surrogate that provided 2 children or 3 children, what that would be like too.
Yeah, it would be so interesting.
Yeah.
So then when we talk about the bond, now I don't know how it looks like. We have to see where's the interrupted movement, towards the surrogate mother or towards the biological mother, right? The egg donor mother, so to speak. Yeah. So that will be very interesting. I cannot draw any conclusions until I see that. So the children give back to this father love, which is in the essence security and stability, groundedness, that keeps them away, for example, from addiction, right? Because this is what you lack when you're addicted. You're lacking the structure and stability and this groundedness, right? And you are looking for substances that takes you out of this struggle to find it. That's, you know, if you will, to find this structure, because when you are fulfilling your addiction, nothing else counts, right? This is it. This is it. You are completely, you know, even if you're a smoker, you know that. If you were not able to smoke for a long time, and then you can smoke your first cigarettes after that, it's like, oh my gosh, the whole world is okay now, right? It's just because you fulfill your addiction. It's not because the cigarette is doing that. So this is interesting because it kind of completely completely takes over and takes you away from what you are struggling with, yeah, and gives you the illusion of fulfillment, which you don't get with the substance, obviously, right? But that's what you think. So this love from the father is also something that will be want to be passed on to the children, obviously, to take the children to give the children this quality of energy and avoid that they have problems for themselves. And if that's not possible, of course, yes, this can flow also into animals or another good cause, right? So children give also to their father their gratefulness, right, and their respect, same. That is also deep love, of course. That is no worries, but it's not this. The children are not there to give the father safety and stability. Yeah. So that is not the quality of love that should flow back. And I have rather seen any. I cannot even recall any case where that was even a problem. It's more with the mother than with the father. Interestingly, now that I think about it, no, I don't think I have ever seen that that's a problem. So for the children, it seems to be easier. I mean, they can also dismiss the father because of an interrupted movement. That's happening often. But if they love their father, they normally don't want to take over the father role over the father. But it's absolutely possible that this happens one day. So again, children's role is to receive father's love as is without judgment, and the judgment towards the father due to an interrupted movement is often he wasn't there, or he wasn't often enough there, or he didn't care, things like that. Yeah. And that is also the most common problem in the relationship. And it is often also not the father's fault, because the mother may don't want contact with the father, or the father, you know, was in a war, or the father was sent away for work for a prolonged time. So it is not. This is not about what the father did or not did. This is about how it had hurt the child subjectively. Yeah. So let's say when the child felt the need of structure and security and support in this regard, and the father wasn't there, then this trauma would happen in early years, of course, right? All these traumas, which we call interrupted movements, happen in early years. So they are normally not happened like when the child is 4, 5, 6 years old. It's more baby years to then, and as you know, mostly they're depending on the relationship with the mother in these years. So this is why it is more common to have an interrupted movement towards the mother, because they're depending more on this relationship, but they do also depend on the father's relationship in some way or the other. The father cannot give this kind of care. That's the same as in the mother. That can be the same reason. He himself has an interrupted movement, and this interrupted movement can be either mother or father. It is not necessarily his father. It can also be his mother. Because interestingly, through my observation, I don't think that I have heard Bert Hellinger talking about that in specific, but I have observed, like when you have a child has mother and father and receives both of these loves, it kind of combines in it, this love, yeah? And then when the child is a man, a boy, and grows up a man, then it kind of becomes a quality of fatherly love. And when that child is a daughter, it becomes the quality of motherly, or a mother in this case, becomes the quality of motherly love. But the love is both, from both parents. So the point I want to make here is that when you have interrupted movements, you are not only looking for the same sex lineage for interruption in earlier generations. It could be that just because the child has an interrupted movement towards the mother, that the mother has an interrupted movement to her father. Yeah. Because this is kind of coming together in this birth, and then it becomes mother love when she becomes a mother, right? So this quality. The same reason can be why the father cannot give his love, because he has an interrupted movement towards his mother or father. Yeah, that's the same as in the mother. There's nothing really different. Okay, now a specific relationship we are looking at is teacher-student relationship, because the teacher-student relationship is similar to father-child relationship. So when a student, for example, in any kind of circumstances, a child in the classroom, for example, or in a private school, a pupil towards the teacher or professor has problems with them, then you have to look in the father-child relationship. That's where you mainly will find the reason for this, because there is an interrupted movement. In any relationship, so any relationship where giving back is not possible is similar to this, right? Remember, where giving back the same love is not possible is similar to this. Yeah? It goes always from one came first, or has a more knowledge, or is the leader, goes to the other, right? This way. At one point, the student needs to teach to let the love flow. That is the same as if you would have children. If you have gathered a high amount of knowledge and experience in one specific field, you will feel the urge to pass it on, even if you don't consider yourself to be a good teacher. But it's just a natural flow that wants to continue. Or you write a book, or somebody writes a book for you and interviews you. So there's always ways to pass it on. It's really important to let that flow. If it gets stagnant, it is not good in the life of the teacher neither. No, it becomes stagnant and becomes a blockage in his life. The ancestral relationships is similar to the parents in the way that they give and the descendants receive, but it's not the same love. If it would be the same love, we were not calling it ancestral, we will call it mother or father in multiple generations. Yeah. But the ancestors play a specific role in family constellations. They can show up not as father or mother, and often don't even have a gender, like you cannot even tell if it's a man or a woman, and if it was a father or a mother of the future generation. But there are still a relationship with the client or another descendant of this family system. Remember, ancestors are everyone from generation 5 to 7. Yeah. So the question is, what do they give? They give blessings. That's a different kind of love. It's not motherly love. It doesn't nurse and care. It's not fatherly love. It doesn't give security and stability. It gives what it is, blessings, right? I don't even know how to explain what blessings are, but we know what we are talking about, yeah? It supports the life journey of this child as it wish it to be, without judgment, without any specific quality to this energy, right? It's like a blank gift, like a voucher to everything that the child can use for whatever it likes to use it for. The ancestors, they give through their children, of course, because one of the children is your mother, or children is a grandfather, great-grandfather, or father or mother of your client. And the descendants receive blessings by making their life extraordinary. I say that is subjective. However, they find their life extraordinary in honor of the ancestors. That's how they balance this giving of blessings. So in a family constellation, they would say, please give me your blessings. And then the ancestor would say, yes, you have my blessings. And then they would say, thank you for your blessings that I have now received. I will take it and I will do something good out of in my life. No? To make sure that is whatever this child is it's a blank gift, this blessing, whatever the child wants to do is honoring the ancestor. So with all, you learn that next module, with all family constellation, we are only concerned with either reconciliation or honor and respect. Now, that stands down in all our movements in family constellation. So reconciliation means letting the love flow, and honor and respect means that we are doing exactly that towards ancestors and others. That's what's lacking. That's what we apply in the right, of course, in the right situation that we need to find. What was the question, Suman?
You answered it, Maya.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna run to the restroom very quickly, but I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
So the common problems in ancestral relationships are ancestors are excluded. We talked about that in part 1. Of course, not deliberately excluded by the client, but by somebody else in the lineage, by somebody else from the family system. Or the ancestors are not honored, so they are still hanging around waiting for the balance of the relationship because they might have given blessings and they didn't receive the honor and respect that they needed to balance it out, because we need to balance all relationships out to move on unburdened in our life. Otherwise, we are kind of collecting debts, right? And then the question is, when you look at ancestral relationships, what is an entanglement with an ancestor? They only want to point at an imbalance in their generation. That's you have either the ancestor who gives blessings and is there for support, or you have the ancestor showing up in a family constellation that still is stuck in a trauma. And that is causing then the epigenetic inheritance and the problems for the descendant. So when you found out in the family constellation why did the ancestor show up, yeah, then you have one that is there not for blessings, then it is the other one, then it is there to point at an entanglement. Yeah. That doesn't mean that this ancestor is the cause of the entanglement. It can also be that it's in his generation, right? So sometimes they just show up to point at it because they know something. So you have to then further inquire in this generation, what might have happened there. The descendant's role is here to see the imbalance, not to fix it. So the descendant is kind of the messenger who was sent by the family system to a family constellation to give this ancestor the room and the space to appear, represented by another workshop participant, and to show where the imbalance is that needs balancing. So it's not, and then whatever issue the descendant has is not what you are fixing, right? It is a result of restoring balance in this family system. Of course, the client doesn't know that, but this is why he needs you as a facilitator. The right order here is the descendant is receiving blessings and the ancestor is fixing the problem. That would be then the solution. Okay, we have a little exercise for you. You're looking at your ancestral line. You will meet an ancestor. We have for that 5 minutes. Each of you takes a turn in a breakout room. One of you is representing yourself and the other is representing an ancestor of your family. Now remember, ancestor is generation 5 to 7, so you very unlikely would know this person. Yeah, you never heard of it, you never saw it, you never saw a picture, and that's the difference to the other exercise we did, where you met your mother, where you had a picture of her in your head and emotions and memories and everything. Now you have nothing of that, right? So in this exercise, you are deeply connecting with the morphogenetic field and resonating and observing yourself while you meet the ancestor, how you feel, what emotions come up, maybe some bodily feelings, maybe memories or thoughts come up, or a word. That is what you observe for yourself, right? So we will share no words other than what I tell you right away. No words other than asking for blessings at the end. So I will message you when 4 minutes up, when you look each other in the eyes and you have absorbed what's going on in your representation. Then I will message you that it's time for the blessing, and then you would ask your ancestor, please give me a blessing. If you can do it, it's not necessarily that you can do it, but if you can do it, yeah? And then the ancestor would have said, yes, you have my blessings, if that's appropriate. It's not necessary. We have cases where the ancestor cannot do that. Right? This is an exercise, not a full-fledged family constellation. So you are just observing to be truthful. What are you able to in this representation to do? Yeah. And then you swap, and then we do the same vice versa. And then you come back after 10 minutes and then we share. So everything that you want to share, keep it until you meet me again. Yeah? Okay, you ready? Good. Okay. I stop sharing. Okay. Very good. So how was this for you? Who wants to start sharing?
Do you want to go first, Kimberly?
Sure. So for the first one, where it was me and my ancestor, Suman was my ancestor. I felt very happy to connect. I felt like really almost excited to connect. And it felt really good, and I felt loved. When I was the ancestor for Suman, I felt so much anxiety, and I kind of felt a little bit dizzy, and I was having a hard time really breathing. And I loved Suman, and I was happy to see Suman, but I was just having some issues within myself.
Interesting. And how did the blessing go for you?
I think both blessings went well. Like I wanted definitely to give Suman the blessing, but it was hard to speak. It was hard to get the words together to make it come out. But I wanted to, but it just took a lot of energy to get it. And then when I received my blessing from my ancestor, it just was very emotional. Felt very emotional.
Wonderful. And how was it to connect or to resonate with the representation of Suman's ancestor? Was this easy?
For me to connect, to be the ancestor?
Yeah.
Yeah, very easy.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And
Yeah.
Suman, how was it for you?
As receiving, so interesting that you say the way that you said it, Kimberly, because there was so much of me that wanted you to speak. Like I wanted you, like I felt like there was, you had information to give me. And I felt like I just wanted you to like give it to me. And so I understand where that sense of anxiety was coming from, because there was like a pull that I was creating within myself with you. So that was very interesting. It felt very comfortable and felt very safe, but I'm like, tell me what you want to tell me. As your ancestor, I felt it was very interesting. I had a hard time blinking because my eyes were drying. They felt so viscerally dry when I was connecting with you. Like I had to keep blinking my eyes. And it wasn't until you asked for your blessing is when my eyes didn't feel so dry or fiery. I felt that immediately. Yeah, it was very, very palpable for me. And I felt it very important for me to keep my feet on the carpet, on the ground when I was connecting with you. I was noticing things in my body. I think I felt like you were having a hard time connecting with me, and maybe I was like overcompensating and like, I don't know, trying to create that energy field. But the eye piece was very interesting. As soon as you asked for your blessing, my eyes were totally fine.
You just reminded me, when you were my ancestor, I all of a sudden, I don't know if you remember, my head started to hurt
Yeah.
really bad. I got this sharp pain right here. And it was so weird. Like I had to hold it, and like my pressure point, and it went away, but I was feeling stuff in my body too. That was just yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very good.
Yeah.
So there was this urge, as Suman, as an ancestor, to give blessing, right? There was this urge to let that flow, right? That's what
It
you
was.
felt. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. And how was the blessing for you when you received it?
It felt wonderful to hear my ancestor, and then I wanted more. Again, I stayed with that feeling of like, you need to tell me more.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Very good. Awesome. So wonderful. And now you have met an ancestor, and it has already moved something in your family system unknowingly to you what exactly it is. And we don't need to know that. It will move whatever needs to be moved. So even if it's just an exercise, we are never really playing with the morphogenetic field. It is always really present. Yeah. So that's another observation from all this year's work. You cannot play with the morphogenetic field. It's always, even if I make a demonstration and I use the figurines, the field is already working. We are just not going to a full-fledged family constellation. That's all. Very good. Okay, so we have our break now, because after that, I would like you to introduce your partner to us. And then we will talk about romantic relationships. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And because only the two of us, we seem to have a little bit more time than usual. So we take 15 minutes break today. Yeah?
Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank
See you in
you.
15. Bye.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go first. Let me share my screen. Oh,
Yeah, hang on.
yeah.
Yep.
So this is my partner, Brian. We have been together since 2011. He is the first male that I ever thought I would be in a serious, committed relationship with that was not Indian. I've dated many, enough Indian men. Um, ironically enough, they were not in my state, where my parents are from, which is Punjab. They were always from other parts of India. So they always spoke different languages, had different foods, different religions, but they were Indian. Um, Brian is probably 92.5% like my father. Demeanor, mannerisms, kindness, softness, but confident, gives, but is also a very cerebral man. So he doesn't talk a lot. He's always in his head, always thinking, very much an introvert, but for work will turn on the extrovert. And yeah, we've been on quite an interesting journey together. We moved in a year into being together, and at that point I knew 6 months into that I had to tell my parents we were together. And they embraced him with like open arms. And I think they've figured out later on in life I wasn't going to be what their expectation of a obedient Indian daughter was, to go to school, get a degree, get married, have kids, da 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 da. So I remember still sitting on the sofa with my parents and telling them about him before they met him. And I had so many things in my head, like what oh, I'd love to have the conversation with both of you. Like almost like it was more of I made a bigger deal of it than it really was, because I didn't know what I was stepping into. And it was, I do wonder at times, especially because I met Brian after my older sister passed, about 5 years later. And I'm curious, had I met Brian while my sister was still with us, if that would have changed anything of how they approached him or embraced him. And so I think loss and just happiness and looking at what happiness is for your children shifted from my parents drastically. So yeah, that's Brian.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So when you talked about your Indian relationships, were your parents expecting, or were they introducing them to you? Was it kind of the tradition of arranged marriage, or was it your choice?
Once or twice. I remember when I was in England for a cousin's wedding, I was 18. They took the opportunity to have someone do the traditional, let's have them meet for tea. And we were upstairs chatting and they were downstairs like getting along. And another opportunity came along, but for the most part, I was always the rebel, the black sheep of, you want me to do it this way? I'm going to do it that way, but my way. So even with most of the Indian men I've dated, my parents didn't really approve, because it wasn't our religion, our culture, it wasn't North Indian. So yeah, so it's very interesting. Yeah.
Very
never did I ever think that I was going to be with someone long term who was not some part of India. So surprise.
Well, he's like your father, as you said.
Gosh, so much like him.
That's kind of very typical.
Yeah.
All girls want to marry their father.
Yeah.
So how would you describe your relationship to what is his name again?
Brian.
Brian. How would you describe your relationship to Brian right now?
We are very comfortable, and we are also very independent.
Comfortable and independent. Okay.
Yeah, comfortable and independent, but still know that there's a very unspoken understanding of this is how we unite. And yeah, it very comfortable, but we are aligned, but we also have our both of ourselves have our own lives at the same time. Yeah.
Very good. Good to have
Mm.
him on board in our group and on the training, and can include him in what we do.
Mhm.
Okay, Kimberly.
Hey, I think I figured out how to share a picture. I had to paste it into a Word document. So here we
Yeah.
are.
Aha.
This is my husband. This is Rex. Rex
Did you not
Mars.
say? Did you not say he's Chinese?
He's half Chinese, yeah.
Oh my
His
gosh, this is barely to see. Yeah.
Yeah, his dad was English, raised in New Zealand, and his mom
Uh-huh.
Chinese, raised in India.
Oh
Ah,
So,
wow.
no. Look at that.
yeah. And so,
So
um,
interesting.
it's very interesting, very fascinating. Lots of constellation work to do there, for sure. Um, but yeah, he and I met in 2008, and it was one of those things where we were both going to a party that neither one of us wanted to go to, and the moment I saw him, like something just happened inside of me, like just this, and I was, I really didn't have a lot of boyfriends or relationships. I was very picky. Um, and just, I don't know, I was very inexperienced, I guess. I only had a couple of, I think my longest relationship was 2 years, and I really forced it just because I wanted to be in a relationship. I'm like, what's wrong with me? And I'm not in a relationship. And so, but with Rex, it was just supernatural, like just super easy, supernatural, super, um, just flowed and evolved. That's not to say we haven't had our ups and downs. We've worked through lots of stuff and have had a lot of, crazy experiences, good experiences, challenging experiences. Um, we have two little boys together. We have a nice family. We have a dog. We have just everything's just really feels really good. He's definitely not my dad. Like he's not anybody in my family. So, and his family's not my family either. Like they're so different. Um, but my mom, passed away before I met him, and he met my dad once, and then my dad passed away shortly. Um, afterwards. And so, he hasn't really got to know like my parents. He's got to know my aunts and uncles and other family members and my brother that's still alive. But um that's kind of been, I guess, hard. Like I missed my parents being involved in our relationship.
Mhm.
Uh, but his dad recently passed away a few years ago now, and his mom and us are getting closer. Like he's close with his parents. I've always kind of been the weirdo one, in their family. But now, like his mom, she actually did constellations with me, and so she's really starting to open up and just be more fun and accepting, and yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that and bringing him in our little group. How would you describe your relationship to him right now in a word or two?
Easy, for the most part, fun, um, busy. Like we have so much going on in our lives. Sometimes it's hard to get that time together. So it's like maybe not as much time together, like quality time as we'd like, but just feels like flowing.
So what word would you use from all of that? Easy, busy, or flowing?
I would say easy.
Easy. Okay, very good. Very good. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, I take over again with my slide. So, okay, let's talk about what we call romantic relationship. It's not always romantic, as you know. And we also include other relationships that are not intimate. So that could be every relationship where you meet face to face, like where there is not who comes first, when nobody came first, right? So it could be a relationship with the best friend, or any kind of relationship where you don't have this flow down. Siblings are a little bit in between. This is why we talk about them a bit separately, because as I said before, the first and the last one has a special relationship or a special place in the family system, and then the middle ones, if there are more than two, they are kind of meeting face to face. They are kind of more or less even. So first of all, how do you decipher this kind of relationship? It is where everyone is equal. There's nobody came first. There's not the order of precedence in this regards, and they are both included in the family system. So it can only be people that are part of the family system, of course. When we talk, however, in this module, in this part, the last part of last half of part 3, some of the information I share are relevant for family constellation, and some of this information are just teachings of Bert Hellinger's that are more for you to use on a daily basis, like in your relationships, if you wanted to, right? They are not particular things that come up in a family constellation. So this is a little bit mixture, right? So giving and taking has always to be balanced. We are here, module 1, part 3, the third order of love, order of balance, right? So when we're looking at relationship, we have looked firstly how to balance child, mother, child, father, child, aunt, sister. Now we are looking at how to balance these equal relationships. They follow different dynamics, obviously. Yeah? So there's a different way to balance them out, and a different way of giving and receiving. As a general rule, giving and taking has to be balanced. Each partner equally gives and receives. That's the ideal. That is barely ever happens. And this is basically where problems in relationship comes from. That's as easy as that. That the giving and taking is not balanced. One is either giving more or receiving more, right? I often been asked, what about money? Because especially in romantic relationships or in with couples living together, that might be an issue, or when they have parted. Yes, money is also a form of balance. It's really just energy like everything else. So it can be given and received. That's possible. So what else can be given and received in relationship? What do you think? Just unmute and shoot.
Sex?
Hmm?
Sex?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Intimacy. Yeah.
Gifts.
Gifts. Yeah, of course. Objects. Yep. Can be given and received.
Intimacy, affection, kind words.
Yeah. Kind words. Communication. Time spent with each other. Affection. Right. So this can all be, and even good thoughts, positive thoughts, support can be given. So what cannot be given is judgment. The judgment is leading basically to the breakup of the relationship in a long term, right? Because judgment is nothing that you can give and receive. That is a blockage. And it's a blockage on the part of the receiver. And it's quite similar with the child who cannot receive the love of the mother because there is a interrupted movement, and therefore a judgment towards the mother that her love is not good enough. Yeah. And in a romantic relationship or an equal relationship, that is the same. if something is being given, then there is this judgment that it is not good enough, it's not the right thing, it's not the right time, it should be something else, whatever it is. Then this is blocking it off, and receiving is not possible. So the relationship becomes unbalanced. And when this is proceeding over a course of time, then it will inevitably lead up to breaking up of the relationship, or being a very, very unhappy relationship, of course, right? So the common problems in relationships are, one is giving too much, and or the other is not receiving. Now, how can that be a problem if one is giving too much? What do you think? Isn't that a good thing? Give
They're
and
getting,
give and give.
they're getting drained and maybe feeling taken for granted.
Okay, when you give too much, yeah. What else? What is the problem in giving too much?
They're not receiving.
Yeah. What is about the other? Yeah.
They're not.
They're not receiving. They're not seen.
Yeah, or they are incapable of receiving.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are conditioned in most cultures that giving is better than receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you see, I have observed that a few years ago. If you see a mother in the kindergarten, yeah, telling their child to give this best toy away to their whatever, to somebody he didn't like, because that's what you do. You give what you love to others. Then they learn that it is good to give and not good to receive. Right? And that's a common problem in our Western world. I'm not sure about Indian culture, if that is also common, but it is definitely common in Christianity. And this causes imbalance. Yeah.
It comes from Christianity. I was wondering where it came from. You think it comes from Christianity?
Well, in our culture, I would say so. Yeah.
Because the poor are blessed. Is that why? Because
you remember the Jesus who gave his this story of Jesus who gave his what was his coat or something to the poor. That was the last thing he had. There's nothing wrong with giving, of course. The only thing is wrong is if you think it is superior to receiving. Right? Because giving and receiving needs to be equal in an equal relationship. Yeah. Because the one who gives and the too much, so doesn't give the other the chance to receive it all, yeah, he feels superior on an unconscious level. Feels he's doing more, or she. They feel they're doing more than the other, and that leads to the imbalance. And there are other problems with this. Then there is the other problem that giving unrealistically things like "I love you forever." How will you receive that? There is no balance possible to that, right? And it sounds so nice and so romantic, but in fact, it is unbalancing the relationship. What do you think who's leaving an unbalanced relationship? The one who gives too much or the one who can't receive?
The one that gives too much.
And what do you think, Suman?
I was going to say the one that can't receive.
Most often that is the case, yeah. The one that can't receive because they feel the unbalance more. They feel they are trapped. They feel they can't give. Whatever they give is not enough because the others is giving more. And often they leave. Yeah. And why is that? Also because the one who gives and gives and gives in this tradition feels always good and good and good. Because giving is better than receiving. So they feel good about themselves. They feel also good to be superior, you know, on an unconscious level, of course. And they're giving and they feel good. But the one who cannot receive all of this, maybe with problems receiving anything, but it's too much anyhow to receive for anybody, then they feel minor because they feel the other felt superior, right? And they feel also incapable of balancing it out, and that is felt, and receiving is also not as good as giving, of course. So they have they feel it as a double weight on the relationship, and they will eventually leave because they can't bear it anymore. So there is a lovely teaching from Bert Hellinger about balancing in the good and balancing in the bad, and that is what makes love grow or not. Right. So when we have found out, okay, either in a family constellation or in our own life or in the life of a friend or family member, there is an unbalance in the relationship. Now we need, of course, to know how do we balance it? How do we do that? Right. So that is the question, what lets love grow and what lets love not grow? And then also we will look at that in a moment. And then there's also this, can something be balanced by forgiving? Like if somebody has done something, can the other partner say, oh, I don't want to balance it out, I forgive. Let's say at a typical example, the man has cheated on the wife. Yeah? In one occasion, let's make it simple. In one occasion. And now, in Bert Hellinger's teaching of what makes love grow, it's a little bit like tit for tat. And you know that's a successful strategy. And it is also in relationships, interestingly. Now the woman needs to do something to balance that out. And since it was something bad, yeah, this cheating, now it needs to be balancing out with something else bad towards the man. But if you want to let the love grow, it has to be slightly less bad, right? So she wouldn't cheat back on him. She might even doesn't want that, but she would kind of start a flirt on Tinder or whatnot, yeah. And she would, of course, talk about that, yeah. And then he would, she would make, and she would actually connect the dots. So she would say, you know, you have done that, and now I do this. So, right now, and then to let the love grow, he would have to balance that out in a way that he does something less bad. Now he would never cheat on her. He would not flirt, but he would probably, I don't know, he would probably go out with his mates drinking every Friday or something. I don't know. I'm just making this up. And she would do something else to balance that out. She would not flirt anymore. But she would probably then go with girlfriends every third weekend to Las Vegas or whatnot. Of course, from his money, if she had her own money, and so on. And this would let the love grow, because eventually it is all balanced out. You don't need to forgive. You don't need to forget. It's all in order. Everything is balanced, and they come to a point where they are again face to face. Right? That's a theory, of course. It's a theory, of course. If it works, who knows? And then there is also let love grow in the good, right? So if one partner does something good, brings flowers, let's assume that's something good and it's not overwhelming, it's appropriate, then the other partner would also probably organize a picnic, right? And then the partner would spend more time. He would probably take off a weekend work, and you know, so this can also go up, and so they are meeting itself balanced up and not down here. So they work their relationship up to let love grow, right? And of course, the other way around is to let not love grow. The opposite is if somebody did something bad in a relationship, that the other did something that's worse. right? And this is what comes to an end of a relation. This obviously leading to the end of the destruction of the relationship, because the unbalance would go wider, 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 or like this, really, right? And that would be then eventually the end, right? And this is probably why revenge is that, right? So revenge is not letting love grow. Revenge is doing the similar or something worse to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not a means of balancing relationships. So now the question is, okay, if I don't want to flirt on Tinder, for example, yeah, if it's not my style, nothing comes to my mind that I would want to do, can I just forgive him? What do you think? Is this a means of balancing a relationship?
It's so hard.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how, I don't know. Not been in that position. I don't know if that's forgivable. I don't
What
know what that
happens if you forgive? Have you ever forgiven something, or have you ever had the urge to forgive something? Or have ever asked somebody of forgiveness?
Mhm.
Ever? Yeah?
Mhm.
What situation was this?
When I had my first son, I had a really traumatic birth, and I had just a lot going on, and it was very hormonal. And my aunt came to stay with me, and apparently I wasn't nice. I wasn't my best self, and she was very hurt. And I asked her to forgive me for that, for whatever whatever happened in that space. But I don't know if she ever did. So
Uh-huh. So how do you feel about that still when
I
you
don't
think
know.
about it?
I don't know if it
Is this
worked.
balanced? Do you feel
Is it
balanced, or do
no,
you
it's
still
totally,
feel?
oh, it's totally imbalanced. It's never been right since then.
Yeah, see.
Mhm.
So forgiving doesn't do the job for many, many reasons. Neither. So first of all, when you forgive somebody, you feel superior. You feel you have power over the other.
Mm.
You think with one word of you can fix things.
Mhm.
Yeah. With forgiveness is actually nothing other than feeling superior, and often it is used not to forgive, to keep the power on, right? So like your auntie, for example, right?
Mhm.
If you ask her for forgiveness and she didn't forgive you, now you're still trapped there. You're still trapped there, and she has the power. She has the
That's
power over you, right? And it's good that you feel that, because that's
and
exactly how.
yeah, and so I just avoid her.
Exactly.
So I just,
Exactly.
it's nice, whatever, but I just don't engage.
Exactly. And so is now this relationship balanced or not?
No.
No, it's not. And it's probably over anyhow
Yeah,
because
it's
of
probably
that.
superficial, just whatever, it's
Yeah.
superficial.
Yeah. So forgiveness is completely, it's really, and I had this epiphany when I was with Bert Helling, and I listened to his teaching and reading his books. I really understood what this forgiveness, what an artificial construct this is, and that it does nothing. It's just severely manifesting the imbalance, because the true forgiveness is forgetting. A true forgiveness is it has never happened. When in this case with your auntie, if your auntie would say, "Look, Kimberly, I don't mind. This has never happened," you know,
Yeah. No, she's like, it
I
happened.
I totally forgot. Don't
Yeah,
worry about that. I totally forgot. Then you would feel good about it, right? It needs to be true, of course, not just a lip.
right.
How do you say Lippenbekenntnis, mouth thingy? How do you say in English? When you
Lip
just say
service.
some lip service. Thank you. Not just a lip service, right? It needs to be true, of course. And that is the only way to forgive. So instead of saying I forgive you, say I have forgotten it. Don't worry. And that must be true. So you're really not thinking about it anymore. It's not lingering around anywhere. It's not a debt that it's waiting to be paid for, right? It's gone. It's gone. And you can barely, you have no emotions. It might be, you know, you might still remember that something happened, but there's no emotions attached to it. That's forgetting, right?
What happens if you can't forgive?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot forgive, you can only forget.
Okay, but what if you can't forget?
Then it needs to be balanced.
Yeah.
Forgetting is just another means of balancing something, right? So
Mhm.
if you in this example with your auntie, for example, if and obviously well let's so obviously auntie, that's a good relationship example for a relationship, because she's not superior, she doesn't come before you, because she's not a mother, she's not a father, she's not an ancestor. Yeah. So an auntie is a very good example for another equal relationship. Yeah. Although she might be born before you, some aunties are actually the same age as the cousin, right? So interestingly, so it's a leveled one. So you can balance that out in this way. So let's, in this example, let's say your auntie would be interested in keeping. So your auntie is not interested in keeping the relationship with you. That's what comes out. Because
Yeah.
if she would be interested, she would come up with something.
Mhm.
Yeah. So she would, if you would have not asked for forgiveness, if she would just be upset with how she's been treated, she would find something to balance it in the bed just a little bit less, right? I don't know what that can be. I don't know what she's doing and how, but there's certainly something that she can come up with, yeah. Or she would ask you to do something for her, you know. She would ask you to, I don't know, dog sit. I don't know whether she has a dog, but something to dog sit when she goes away, even if it's inconvenient for you, because you have just a baby and this and that, and and then you have to put up with it. And both of you would feel good about it. And the relationship can continue and love can grow. But that's a very good example where this doesn't work. And that's the basic teaching of what love lets grow from Bert Hellinger.
Interesting.
It's very interesting.
So,
I found that too.
So Maya, if if both people forgive, it's balanced.
Aha. Not if it's not forgotten.
Okay,
Because
so
the
it
one
has
who
to
asks, because the one who asks for forgiveness is always superior.
Okay.
The one asking is
The one who has to, sorry, the other one. The
Yeah.
other one who needs to forgive is always superior. It stays superior. So the relationship is not balanced. It needs to
they're
be
like the
forgotten.
persecutor, right? Because they're like the persecutor in a sense.
That makes sense.
So it comes to a matter of discovering, what could be offered as that would equal balance, because dog sitting or whatever is not going to do it. I don't know. It's like playing with that field of what,
Yeah. Yeah. So the one who wants, regardless who feels the unbalance, who is the giver or the receiver, if they want the relationship to grow, they would come up with something,
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And if that doesn't pan out, then that is not meant to be. Then the relationship is over in the long shot. That's just what it is. And then that is good so as well, because it's not meant. Everything that has a beginning has an end. In German, there's a saying with a sausage, sausage has a beginning and an end.
That's funny.
So it's just what it is. Yeah, there is a beginning to this relationship, and then there's an end to this equal, not to the mother, father, and so, but to this equal relationship, there's beginning and an end.
My question for
you.
If let's just say that both, I'm going to just use you as an example, Kimberly. Let's just say Kimberly and her aunt never speak to each other again, but there is an opportunity for them to forget. Is that balancing it out then, or is it?
That is an intent.
That's an
Forgetting
intent.
is an intent.
Okay.
Yeah. So she needs to forget. She, who Kimberly thinks needs to forgive her, she in fact needs to forget it, and she needs to communicate that to her.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's not balanced, because Kimberly needs to know that she has forgotten it.
Okay.
Like when they meet at a family event or something, Kimberly still has a bad conscience about that, and feels not good in her. And then the auntie would come up to her and say to her, hey, how you doing? And totally normal, right? And Kimberly's a little bit worried. Why is she doing this to me? And then Kimberly would say, I'm still so sorry about that, you know? And then she said, oh, I've completely forgotten that. Don't worry about that. That is the relief.
I could try it and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Try it. That would be good. Let us know. Try it and see what happens. Yeah, exactly. Very good. So how do this issue with forgiving comes up in a family constellation? Most often, and you have that quite a lot, that a representative, of course, a representative who's not in the training, like a random person, is representing in a relationship somebody, and then they say, oh, and then say, oh, please forgive me because I feel bad about something. They are resonating with something bad, right? Now, as a facilitator, we have to stop that because we know this is not doing anything in a real relationship. It's even worse in a family constellation, right? Because this superiority is gonna or this what is the inferiority is gonna create by the one who asks for forgiveness. Or same equal often somebody says as a representative, I think I want to forgive her or him. And then you need to find out why, what's the unbalance and what they do instead. And instead of that, we have normally the thank you. You will learn next module the 3 powerful words: yes, please, and thank you. And thank you would be the word where everything can be balanced out. Everything. It just needs to be applied in the right order, at the right time, towards the right person, right? Now, in Kimberly's example, coming back to that, she could also say when she meets her auntie or write her and said to her, thank you for being so patient with me while I was going through this birth and the hormone thing. I really appreciate that. And I feel really, really grateful that you helped me and put up with me in this state. That will balance it out as well, unless this letter comes back with a return from sender. Then not. But otherwise, this can balance it out. It can also balance it out if you do that in a meditation. So if you still feel bad about it, Kimberly, and you don't have the chance to see her, and you don't even want to test it out, you can do that and you know, see her in a meditation, represent it, and do the same and say, give gratitude and say thank you. And then you are free. You are free, or if she is free, that's the other thing, but you will be free because you have balanced it out. So thank you is a very, very powerful tool in the family constellation. In this example, when one of the representatives has this urge to say, please forgive me, you would say, no, stop, don't say that. I mean, they are not allowed to speak anyhow without you asking you. So you would say, they would say to you, if they, you know, apply everything correctly, I really, looking at this representative, at this person, I have this urge to ask for forgiveness. And then you would say, okay, that's great. Say them, thank you for being so patient with me. And see how it goes. And then you would see that the other representative would feel this relief. And if there's still this urge to forgive, then we have an unbalanced relationship. So somebody feels superior and wants to stay in this role, right? So that's very, very telling then to see that. Okay. There's something else that Bert Hellinger said, that the intimacy diseases with the firstborn child. Yeah, that's often what he has observed. Actually, he had no children, by the way. He was, after he was a priest, he was marrying a nun, who they both left the Catholic Church. They were probably in their mid-40s or 50s by that time, so they had no children. And then he studied psychology and became a psychotherapist. and started to discover and unveil the dynamics and the family constellation. And then along the line, he met Sophie Hellinger. He was in his class, and then he married her later when he got divorced and married her. And that's then when they worked together. So his insights about what happens in marriage with children is purely through observation or in family constellations, right? So that's what he came up with. The intimacy deceased with the firstborn child, but the relationship can expand into something greater than just intimacy. This is the way to stay in the relationship if both partners appreciate the widening of the relationship for the sacrifice of intimacy. I don't know, Kimberly, whether you have felt that with your firstborn child, a decrease in, yeah, it is big thing, eh? Yeah, me too.
Especially when you have like 2 little kids,
Yeah, it's just natural.
It's not just me and you. It's you become this whole family unit that,
Yeah. And obviously the women normally feel that more than the men because they don't have this cut. Like when you give birth to the child, you're kind of transforming into this mother, and the father never really transforms. They are staying who they are. So they have often a harder time with transforming the intimacy into something wider. And that's the work, and that is also what is an imbalance in a relationship often, that the new appointed fathers cannot really transition into this new relationship with the wife and the child and the family as a whole, right? And that is the work then, right? And that's of course why you see it often is nowadays that partnerships end when a child is born, like in the long shot. And that is mainly because the husband, the father, cannot transition. He still wants, his old, how can I say, what's the English word? What would you say to a woman who is?
I don't know. I just feels like, as becoming a mom, my interests became split. It was no longer the only person in my life. Like I have other people that are priorities. So it's like this. I mean, our relationship is like this because of the kids or whatever's going on. It's not just always about us connecting. It's other stuff comes in life to, be dealt with.
Exactly. That's exactly what. Yeah. Okay, now we have, and obviously talking about balancing a relationship, there is nothing you can do, right?
Yeah, it's like seesaw. It is. It's constant motion.
It's not like, oh well, I just give him more sex or something. That's not how it works. That's not the balancing out. That's the role and the task for the father to find this new relationship to his extended family and his wife, rather than the wife trying to deal with this as well and the baby. Right? So that would be too much giving. Again, too much giving. It wouldn't work. He would go anyhow. Too much giving. So coming back to
the men are like shifting. Like there is definitely a shift in the way men are now versus how they were in the past. It's and I can see it in my boys. I'm sure you see it in your son. Like we're creating a different, like a totally different man. Like the male role is.
That's interesting that you say that, because that's exactly what I observe. And not, of course, you're in a marriage, but a lot of single mom with sons are raising a new generation of men, where the sons are growing up into young men who respect the woman and who worship what they do, while in a random relationship where often there is some imbalance, big times, right? They see and the worst is then of course abuse towards the wife, right? but they see violence and disregard and disrespect in a man towards the woman, which is the mother, and then they grow up with that, and that becomes the norm. That's how men are, right? That's this condition. And now in this new generation, where 50% of the families are divorced before the children go to school, right? And most of them, they live with women. They don't, not they all, but a lot of them don't see that, don't grow up like this, and then they become a new sort of kind of man. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it could go back even to our ancestors when, like you were talking about the indigenous people with the baby on the back, and like the men are out hunting. They're gone getting, and the women are all together and taking care of the baby.
The men are not bothering the women.
Right? And the men would just come home, drop off the meat, and whatever, and go out again. And so,
yeah. It seems to be a very healthy way of living.
I think so.
Very good. So let's talk about transgender and same-sex relationship. To Bert Hellinger's at Bert Hellinger's times, there were no transgenders, and there was also same-sex relationships were probably not even legal at that time. And the people I know, he had gay people in his workshops, but they had a problem with it. They came because they didn't want it. They came because they had a family and they feel this urge to have sex with a man, and they suffered and they wanted help with it. So then Bert Hellinger obviously in this family constellation observed that there's a trauma, a entanglement with somebody in the line, a dismissal of the female or anything like this that needed to be looked at and healed, right? So as a result, that he wouldn't feel this urge anymore and would be happy with his family. That's not nowadays. There's a choice. You want to be another gender, you want to be in the same sex, you have no problem with it at all. And therefore, there is not a situation where this would come up in a family constellation. So I also can't really recall cases that are based around this topic. And of course, transgender is still quite young. So once they are adult and have may come to a family constellation, but they are probably all in their teenage years now when they transgendered. So there's not much to say really about from the phenomenological approach, other than we stick with our orders until we see something else over and over again. And then we need to see how we integrate it. In Bert Hellinger's Orders on Love, of Love, I'm sure it can be integrated, but for now we just do exactly. In a family constellation, you need to work with the egg and the sperm. It's still, you can transgender as much as you want. You can have, I don't know, I saw a list. I mean, it's completely crazy in my opinion. Anyhow, there are two sexes. There's male and female. That's just what it is. But I saw a list of 7 different sexes somewhere published. Like, how is that possible? I don't get it.
It's going to keep happening.
I just don't get it. But in a family constellation, we always have to work with the mother and the father. That's a basic, and their mothers and father. And there's always a mother and a father. Otherwise, no human being is created until they figure out how to artificially create an AI human, which is not human, and which we probably can't do family constellation with, because they have no ancestors. They are electronic, right? So we are working with mother and father. That's important. And it doesn't matter how one calls themselves. If they call themselves a mother when they are male, or if they call themselves a father when they are female, they can do that. But in a family constellation, they are maybe part of the family system if they are by destiny entangled or part of the family system or by action, but not because they call themselves a father. Yeah. It is always the egg and the sperm coming together, creating a new human being, which is a new family member, and that's it. So it's simple for us. We don't need to be concerned with all of that. Of course, when you have, I assume, that will come up more and more, that you have clients and you will, like, throughout the course of the training, you will see and experience that a lot, that clients like to talk sometimes, and we are not talking a lot in a family constellation. That's not all we do. We let the morphogenetic field work. So, but if you're, a beginner and you're inexperienced, or for certain kind of, you're shy and you don't want to interrupt your client, like Bert Hellinger said, that's enough. If you don't want to do that, and you kind of let him talk or let her talk, and they talk about, you can be confused. It can confuse you because they kind of steer you in the direction where they want you to go, because they are so proud of their transgendering and same-sex relationship, and they are barely losing track of their own genitals and who has what. And and then you get steered into that, right? And then you might lose sight of the orders of love. Yeah. So that's, if they start, then you better say, okay, that's enough. I heard enough. We start. And the good thing is, you don't need to start in a family constellation with what they talked about at all. It doesn't matter anything, You can always start to put mother and father up there, and then the morphogenetic field will take over, and the dynamics will show whatever needs to be shown, right? Okay, so what else do I have here? A relationship is only alive through giving and receiving. This is how important this third order of love is. It's a life force, right? You are relating to somebody else through giving and receiving. It's either or. It's always, the whole time. You either give or receive. And it's good to observe you in your daily ways with relationship, when you talk to your partner, or when you do something with your partner, who's in this moment giving and who's receiving. Yeah. It's a constant exchange. It's like the cells in the body constantly exchanging information, nourishment, biochemical things. They're constantly exchanging. It cannot stop. If this would stop, life would stop. It's constant exchange. If you family systems are a system, and this goes for any other system. Yeah. A system has boundaries, which we can also call a membrane of a cell, for example. That's the boundary of the system. The cell is the system, then that's the boundary. So within the cell is all this exchange going on, mitochondrion and this and that, and everything you know from biology. And then there is the membrane, and the membrane is permeated, like we know from Bruce Lipton, it's the intelligence of the cell. So the membrane is permeated, and it's exchanging information due to the environment with other cells, right? The permanent exchange of information at all times. And they in themselves, they form a system, and we call that the body, right? Our body is just a system of many other systems that are permanently exchanging information, right? And now our bodies are also exchanging information with other bodies, yeah, animals, plants, or other humans. Constantly, we don't even know that, right? Constantly exchanging energy and words and emotions, and you name it, yeah, constantly touches, and this we do that constantly. And this is the basic principle of life: exchange, or giving and receiving, right? Because exchange is basically only giving and receiving, right? Without that, nothing can live. And you might know that the study, I don't know how many days, but you cannot put somebody in prison in solitary confinement for longer than a certain amount of time, because they're literally gonna die if there's no exchange possible with anybody else. And that was, of course, torture as well, the biggest torture. one can do. Put them in a box and leave them alone. I'm not sure about the dates, but I think it's something like 40 again, like this biblical number 40. I think I have that in my back of my mind. That's the max. So we cannot survive without exchange. That is that important. And we can steer it. We can give and receive consciously. We don't need to do that unconsciously. We can do that deliberately if we want to balance a certain relationship. And then we have the whole system, and this is let's say, a country of all these bodies, like say Germany, all this country, and then there's America with all the bodies that are exchanged that are forming a system, the system of American citizens, and now they exchange as well, right? Constantly. This is really never ending. They exchange constantly. And of course, I was raised in Western Germany while we had the wall, and East Germany. And I was very well aware that there was this wall, literally, like where no information came from East Germany. They have completely excluded them from their system, from Germany, from the German culture. And of course, it needed to collapse, right? It was about, I think, 50 years, 40 years. 40 years was all they could survive with, yeah. And the Soviet Union, same. It was longer, I think, than 40 years, but not much. Same. If they exclude themselves and not permanently exchange, then they're not going to survive. And of course, always remember, we are talking about family systems. Family are system, and their members exchange permanently information. They give and receive energy, nourishment, and love. And if this is disturbed, we have our rock in the river, and that's the trauma, and that's the disturbance that the morphogenetic field holds the information of, because it cannot stay there. It has to be lifted at one day with one descendant. So they are following certain orders. Yeah, it depends on the nature of the relationship what the right order is. This is why you need to see in a family constellation. Okay, do we have mother-child, father-child, child-to-parent relationship, ancestor relationship, or an equal relationship? And then they have different dynamics and different ways to balance out any imbalance there. So just on another note, the one who's receiving, who's giving all the time without allowing others to give back to them is saying, better you feel guilty than I. Yeah. And it is important, and that is the big, like what I learned from Bert Hellinger, I'm ever grateful for him, to be direct and honest without any fluff and acknowledging what is. It is not hurtful because it's true. And of course, I'm talking in a family constellation. I'm not talking to you going out to the street and confronting a random person, but in a family constellation, that's paramount. To don't shy away, and you will learn that here in the training, to don't shy away, to name it to the most precise, find the most precise word or sentence to name what you see, what is there, what is in front of you, yeah. And that is that. Better you feel guilty than I. Or the one that I always want to help. Right? You might know people like that. They always want to help, right? They didn't even ask for it. They always want to help, right? What they say is, what they do, they are collecting debt. They count that. One day they will come and make you pay for it. It's unbalanced. So make sure you don't put yourself in this position, either as a helper nor as the one who's receiving help all the time. And I don't know whether you, yeah, Suman?
In this perspective of they are collecting debts, this can be at a conscious or subconscious level. Yeah. Okay.
Most of it is subconscious. I'm not saying that they know that, but that's emotionally, of course, that has a reason due to an a trauma or something unbalanced in their history, and that's not coming out of nothing, right? Of course, right? So if you as a psychotherapist, if you have somebody who is always helping, and you want to help them, now that's unbalanced, that is unhealthy, that's what they actually say. Yeah, they are collecting depth, then you would work with them where this has come from, right?
Yeah. I was thinking of a girlfriend who just like I snap my fingers and she's like constantly like helping. And I'm like, sometimes I look at her and I think, who are you? Because you're constantly
And how
I
do
can
you
feel
feel about that?
How do
How
I feel about
yeah.
it? Very uncomfortable.
Doesn't make you
Very
happy?
it makes me feel frenetic. It makes me feel very anxious. Yeah, like
And why is that?
even, she's overcompensating. She's like overdoing something, and
And why do
she's
you feel frenetic about it and uncomfortable?
because I wish she could see that she's just enough. Like she
Because
doesn't
you
need to go
cannot
out.
balance it out.
Yeah,
You cannot balance it out. The relationship is
yeah,
unbalanced, and that makes you feel uncomfortable.
very
As
uncomfortable.
easy as that.
Does it make
Yeah.
her feel guilty, or like does it go
Doesn't
back
need,
to
doesn't need to feel guilty. It's not balanced. I'm not
it's
talking about
unbalanced?
any specific emotion. Just a relationship that should be equal is
Yeah.
unbalanced. Yeah.
Mhm.
He is she always helps, and he is you. Here are you. And she's collecting all the debt here, and here are you, and you can never pay that back. And you may not
Yeah.
want to pay that back because that's not the
Mhm.
kind of relationship you want. Right.
Mhm.
So there's only one way in this relationship is to stop her doing that or leave it. Because you cannot pay it back. You cannot balance it out.
Yeah.
You can either say stop it now, or that was the last time we spoke. Yeah.
I've actually distanced myself from her because
Of course you do.
it's
Of course
too
you do.
much.
Of
And
course.
a lot of it isn't even for me. She's just doing so much for others that like
Yeah.
it's hard for me to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And that coming back to in our earlier when I asked you who's going to leave a relationship like this, the one
The
who cannot
receive.
receive it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is always like, and that's okay. You don't need to change other people.
Mhm.
That's not the point. The point is from learning from it and moving on.
Yeah.
So if you want to balance it out in a relationship, yeah, always remember, ask the partner for something they actually can give. So instead of ask, with this, will you love me forever, or I love you forever thing, that cannot be balanced, because how can you ever fulfill, like, how can that ever be balanced, right? You would instead say, come sit here with me and watch this Netflix series, or can you massage my feet, or something like that, right? So if you feel you have given something, like you have cooked a lovely meal, right? You don't want your partner to go up from the table, say thank you, and go and to the move to his desk and do work or something, right? But if it's kind of a habit and a custom and that just happened, then and you want to take over the lead and balance your relationship with all this knowledge and the means, you would say, come sit with me here, watch this Netflix series and massage my feet for 10 minutes or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Instead of say, oh, do the dishes and we are fine, because it's not, just cooking 2 hours and then doing 10 minutes the dishes when you have a dishwasher. This is not really enough to balance. You like these little things out, right? So yeah,
Mhm.
so you can be creative and find something, and you would see how your relationship is flourishing. If asked for something, yeah, I talked about that. balance cannot occur if you ask for it. And we have all these movies, and we have all these songs, and they are completely leading us, or especially the youth, astray, right? With this love perceived, which is not love. Of course, it's all attachment. That's becoming so popular. Not just nowadays, like for a long time now. And it's really important that we take this word back to its original meaning of love as unconditional, nourish and caring. That's it, right? And everything else is not love; it's attachment. It's neediness. I need you. Don't leave me. I need you. Love me forever. You know. Another thing is sympathy or pity. It's also not giving or receiving. This is something that divides, because it also creates a gap. Yeah. I also want to go no, I'm not talking about empathy. That's a different thing now. That's a different thing. But especially pityness is something that is dividing. Of course, receiving, and we talked about that, is often more difficult than giving due to, our conditioning, our consciousness issues, right? So if you find yourself in a situation where you find it difficult to receive, but you find it more competent to give, just work on that, right? Just allow yourself to receive without the urge to give back immediately. Just allow your relationship to come up level again. Or take note about what you give and receive in your relationship. Make like a balance sheet. Make sure it's always balanced. Okay, we have an exercise. Now we are doing this exercise with your partner. So you go in your group, and one is representing the partner, and the other is representing themselves. Now, meeting your partner in the right place means meeting your partner as if you see him, yeah, in this case, for the first time. So empty yourself from memories, expectations, emotions, and all of that, yeah? And really look in the eyes of your partner as if you see him for the first time. Yeah. And again, observing is key. You observe your own reaction, your own emotion. You not observe what you think the others is feeling. It's about you, how you represent yourself or the partner, right? So stay focused and observe that, what comes up there. And then, of course, we share. We don't need to say anything in this exercise, but if you want to say something, you either say at the end, when I say swap now, you either say to your partner, yes, please, or thank you. And if the partner, the representative of the partner, has the urge to say something, whatever it is, it can only be yes, please, or thank you, right? No other words are allowed in this exercise. And only one of those, anyhow, just in case. Saying. Okay, right. Let's go in there. We have 5 minutes each. Okay, so how did that go? Who wants to start?
I think Suman and I were about to fall asleep.
To fall asleep.
I was so relaxed. It's just like, just wanted to curl up and just like go to sleep. I just felt really,
so you were
really
very comfortable.
Yes.
I felt that way when you were my partner. Like I just felt so comfortable, and I was like, oh, I feel safe, and we can fall asleep now together. Like we can just relax and just be. It was really interesting.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so when Kimberly was your partner, and how was that when you were Kimberly's partner?
I wanted to, even though all I saw was you, but like I felt like all there was you. And I just wanted to take you and embrace you. And then it got so comfortable. And in between that, I was like, is she okay? Is she okay? But I also knew we were okay. And it was enough for us to just doze away together. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Both the same energies.
Mm.
And for you as well, Kimberly?
When I was Suman's partner, I just couldn't get enough of your eyes. Like I wanted to get lost in your eyes. I was just like, just let me, like I could just stare at them forever.
It
I
was the
felt
same
very
with me.
comfortable. Yeah, very comfortable, very relaxed, but I just wanted to like get lost in your eyes. And then yeah. And then there was a moment when we laughed. I just felt like so giddy and happy with you. You know, like it was like silly at the same time. Like it was just a fun, like a little fun moment. And then yeah, when you were my partner, it was like I just wanted to curl up and go to sleep. I felt so safe and so comfortable.
Mm.
Very good, very interesting. So it's interesting how you know you meet in this little group with the same kind of energies towards your partner. Very interesting. Okay, so that was the third order of love. Balancing, giving, and taking, the order of balance. Just a quick recap. The first order of love is, who wants to shout out?
Belonging, order.
Belonging, yeah.
Belonging.
Or the order of
Birth.
inclusion.
Inclusion.
Belonging is the order of inclusion, the first order of love. So we
Mhm.
always start in the family constellation. Each and every family constellation, even if you do it for 30 years, when you have a client, you start you think of who belongs to his or her family system. From all you talked about, from that what seems to be relevant, you have to find out what is relevant here, who belongs to the family system. First order. Second order is the order of
Who comes first?
yeah, and
No.
the order
Yeah.
yeah. And what is this called, the order? Correct.
Say that again, Maya.
How is the order called? What's the name of this order? The order of
So simple and I can't say it.
that's okay.
Yep.
Emily is looking for her note.
Looking.
Order
Of
of
birth? Order of birth?
It is it's the order of precedence.
Precedence. I just changed it. Order of precedence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And part of it is the birth order. And that's so when you have a client and you have found out after you have talked with the client and you know what his issue is, who are the family members that are belonging to his family system that can be part that where you want to start. It will not be the whole constellation, but you need to start somewhere. And you always want to start simple. So you decipher from everything he or she said, who are the family members that stood out. So you're dismissing the ones who are not family members at all anyhow, he talked about. And then you, from all the other members he talked about, who are the ones that stand out, that have a strong kind of emotional reaction in him or that you felt strongly for. Then you are moving on to the order of precedence, and then you would observe how, because you choose representative for these members, and you would observe how they move towards each other. And then you would observe and you find out whether they are standing in the right order. The representatives, they are reflecting the right order with their body language, with their, you know, what they want to say or what they feel, and how they relate to the other representatives. And then you see what doesn't seem to be in order. And then you apply the third order of love. You would look at that seems to be in disorder, and see what's needed here in terms of giving or receiving to balance it out. So this is how you apply the 3 orders of love at each step of your constellation, because it's not just one that is related, then you add others, you see entanglements. We talk about all this later. And then in every step, you always refer back to the 3 orders. They are always your basic toolkits. This is the 3 that are the 3 basic tools in your plumber's box. Call it the hammer, the spanner, and the
Screwdriver.
Screwdriver.
So
That's
we
the
have
one.
the order of belonging, the order of precedence, and then the order of restoring balance, or what would you
Order of
say?
balance, yeah. We call it
Order
the
of
order of balance, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Very good. So let's round it all up here. Do you have questions to the training? Do you want to talk about something about this first module that kind of comes up now, that you want to clarify? How do you want to spend the next 15 minutes that we have together?
I have a couple questions about future meetings.
Yep.
I have on my calendar, hang on, let me just pull it up really quickly here. For February 4th, North America, there's a TG.
Yeah, training gathering.
And then a PW at 11.
Yeah.
And I just was curious about those, what those are exactly.
So that you have from the training calendar, obviously, and the abbreviations are also explained underneath. So TG stands for training gathering, and practice workshop, PVWS, is practice workshop. These are the most, well, everything is important, but these are main important parts of the training. The practice workshops are only from the trainees. All currently enrolled trainings, if they come, of course, sometimes they are a small group, but everybody's eligible to come to the practice workshop and should come. And there, everyone who has already completed the first 3 modules, so not you, can facilitate a constellation. But you are there, of course, right away from the get-go, because you can represent, you can observe, and you can also constellate an issue. Right? So these are this is all happening under my supervision. This is very valuable, not only from you taking part in it, as in any workshop, that on top is that I explain what I see, and that I explain why this needs to happen and not that, and what words and this and that. So that is the only place where you get this information from. And in your, when you want to be certified, you are required to participate in 6 of these practice workshops, and they basically happen every 2 months. So that will be within a year, right? More or less 6. So if you miss one, you already have 2 months in the other year, and then out of this 6, you have to practice 3 times facilitating. So once module 3 is, and you can come to many more, you can extend your training and you can come to many more. And I may put up more, it depends on how many trainees we have. But at the moment, the groups are not big enough to have more. But you never know, it can all expand. There is you train family constellation facilitating after you have concluded all 3 first modules, because these are the basic modules to family constellation. Because you are now the next training gathering is before the module 2, so you have 2 more. You have this is one training gathering, the first and only training gathering where you would come and represent and constellate and not facilitate. And then from that on, you can facilitate and experience how that goes. And that's completely safe. There is no other people, only trainees. There is no others. You cannot mess anything up. You cannot fail. There's only learning experience here. and this is the most desired events anyhow. So even if the times are maybe inconvenient for you, I'd really try to level it out this year a little bit. Just make sure you have a babysitter, make sure you put your clock on and you get some sleep before and get up for that. That would be really, really good.
And that one is February 4th?
I don't have the calendar, but if Kimberly says so.
I have it on February. That was the training, and also the what's the PW?
That is a practice workshop, yeah.
So I have training, gathering, and practice workshop.
Yeah. So the gathering is just that when you have a question to the training, then we would come together there, right? So it's just 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whoever has a question. It's just always before the practice workshop, because we don't have time on the practice workshop to discuss.
I have the training gathering at 10, and then an hour later is the practice workshop.
Yeah, that's likely. Is that your time?
Yes.
Okay, let me just check what I have here in my calendar.
Might be a different day for you.
I had something for February
10 in the
3rd.
morning or in the evening?
Evening.
Evening for you. Yeah, that sounds all right. Yeah. Okay. So February. So yeah, that is. So we have also a workshop, 2 workshops a day before. So that's a full weekend. So you can also come on both workshops, or just one is in your time zone. Yeah, it's 11 a.m. for me. Can you see that?
I have one on February 3rd.
Only one workshop.
For 5 p.m. Is there another one?
Yeah, there is another one, but 5 p.m. would be your time zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be before those. So come to that. You book this workshop with your coupon codes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you did the other one, the first one you've been on, same thing. And then the day after, we would have a training gathering where we talk about issues about the training. There are normally either the participants who have started on the training and have questions, or the ones who are towards writing the essay. They have also questions about the certification and the essay. Some also ask question about a constellation in a workshop, like in the open workshops. That would be the one on the 3rd. Obviously, I'm not discussing anything there. We have a public there. So if you have a question, if you have observed something that you want to clarify, that you can ask these questions in the training gathering, because we have really no time anywhere else to answer these questions. Really, the modules are normally tightly packed with information, and then obviously the practice workshops we want to use to give the trainees time to practice facilitating and not talking about the training. So that would be that one, and then we would start an hour later with the practice workshop for 3 hours. Yeah, so that's February, and then we have the next month coming up, and that would be then our module 2, of course, right? And then there would be nothing else in that, other than another workshop at the 5th of March, then another workshop, just an open workshop. And meanwhile, you use the time to revisit the videos, the recordings, which are usually put up within a week. So you will see that in your group chat, Hoiho group chat, that the video recordings are linked there for the first module, and you see if you can get the books, you read them. Yeah. You can immerse yourself in the field. You can do your little exercises. You can repeat exercises we have done here with yourself in a kind of meditation, and just stay connected to the morphic field as much as possible. And also just by reading, this is why I say read only books from Bert Hellinger. Unfortunately, you can't reach a German version, but then at least the one in English that you can get. Because just reading his books is already immersing into the morphogenetic field. It's like, if reading spiritual text from an enlightened being, it's also, it's already enough to be in this field. So this is why I highly prefer that towards secondary literature. That doesn't mean that secondary literature is bad, not at all. I mean, he has his way, which is to write, which is not always very good to comprehend because he's very much in the field and not, and others are more structured like I am, and they would write it in a more structured way, but this is not bringing you really into his energy. And I would like you to immerse as much as you can in his energy. Good.
So, Maya,
Yeah.
if I heard you correctly, the training gatherings, we need to do 6 of those. Is that what I heard
Practice
correctly?
workshop.
Practice workshops. Oh, practice workshops, we need to do 10 of those, or?
No, that's the open work.
Okay.
10 open workshops, 6 practice workshops, and then another 20 hours of extracurricular workshops.
Okay.
Within the last 3 years of the certification.
Okay.
So you, for example, you could go to what's her name again? I think it's Marina in Canada. She is also online, and she is working a little bit different to me. I was with her once, and I think she's good. She was trained with Bertellinger, but it's a while ago, and she's more doing the old family constellation, which is good to experience for you guys. And of course, workshops you have been, they need to be approved. So I just need a link to their websites to make sure they are Bertellinger's method. And that can all count. So if you go to the worksheet that you have, that you can have on your desktop or print it out and put in the hours that you work in your hour sheet, then also you can start to think about the other workshops you have already visited as extracurricular workshops, and start to put the numbers in there and the reference for the, of course, the certification process, which is a while ahead. But anyhow, it's always good to keep track. I have no means of, after 1.5 years, to know which exactly module and part you have been on. So you need to put that in yourself. Yeah. You put that in, and if you miss a part a day when there's another obligation, right, then you come to that part either in the other time zone, which you have at the, no, hang on, you are behind. So then you would probably come next half year and repeat that part, right? So you need to know which one that is, so you don't forget it, no? But if you never miss something, that's perfect. Then you don't need to worry about all of this. Yeah. Good. Anything else you would like to ask me? All good? Wonderful. Well, then I see you in a few weeks on the workshop. And
next
yay.
week? Yeah. It's coming up, isn't it? Isn't it like next week?
Oh, it is next week. Oh my gosh. Is it
Like,
next week? Is it not in 2 weeks?
Is it next week? I thought it was in
No,
2
it's in,
weeks.
hang on, let me check. It's
February 3rd.
It's
I
in
have.
2
yeah.
weeks.
Yeah,
It's in 2
about
weeks.
Yeah,
So it's in
okay.
2 weeks, couple of weeks. I see you again.
Okay.
And I wish you all the best until then. Have a
Thank you,
lovely
Maya.
time.
Thank you,
Ciao.
Bye.
Melanie.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.